Being buried in bureaucracy. And we're not actually getting the support to people when they need it. A lot of those programs, credit where credit's due, it's there. But it's actually getting access to them that is that challenging, and it shouldn't be.
Thanks again to Carp for these questions, wherever you are. Really important, and it hits home for me as well, because my parents are definitely older. My dad passed, unfortunately. But what I learned through that exercise was the current system is not working. So my dad went into a home. He had dementia, and they messed up quite a bit. And I tried to help him. I went to the seniors advocate because my mom was trying to get. She's on top of things. She was going to she had to call dozens of departments, and nobody knew what was happening. What the BC Greens want to advocate is we should have a single point of contact. If you're one person, basically a concierge, that will work with you to make sure that you get the services that you need. I went to the seniors advocate and talked to them and explained all the things that were going wrong. And I was appalled. What they said to me is, oh, we just address policy. We don't actually do anything. It's like, what? I don't need you to have policy. We got politicians who make policy. I need people who are going to help people get the care they need. So the question was, should we give assistive devices and hearing aids? Again, that is the BC Greens policy. Let's prevent disease by addressing it right up front so that we don't have problems later on. Thank you.
Question number 13. Trevor's first, Daryl second, and Scott is third. This question is from the White Rock VIA. In the past 4 years, businesses in our community have been shut down during the heat dome, see Metro Vancouver cut off from Canada by road and rail, and deal with rising costs due to climate change. What is your party going to do about climate change?
Well, I think we all understand, and this is something that the leader of the Conservative Party BC said today, is that climate change is real and it's here, right? And we acknowledge that. And the fact is that we've had a heat dome, right? And I talked about the cold snap that we've had that wiped out millions and millions of dollars of agriculture in the Okanagan. And the struggle that was for those farmers to actually come and get support from this government. Right? So when it comes to the fact is that climate change, we're talking about small businesses here, and making sure that they have proper supports, right? When it comes to climate, when it comes to cold weather snaps, when it comes to the fact is that we had one of the worst cold snaps that we've had in decades here last January, and making sure that people have proper support. And we're talking about small businesses, but we also need to talk about the people in this community and the seniors that actually went without heat and hot water during one of the coldest snaps that we've ever had. So the fact of the matter is that our climate is changing right now, right? But we're not going to end climate change by taxing people into poverty, right? That's not going to happen. And I think the Premier, to his credit, I think, has made some changes on how he views the carbon tax, and I have to get clear on what exactly he means by that. But the fact is that by taking more money out of people's pockets, that's not going to change climate. What we need to do is we need to make sure that we're investing in power, whether it's Scott and I are going to have a very different opinion on Site C, right? We're going to look at different ways that we can do that. I fully support the LNG industry. I think that's a great way to make sure that we're getting energy and we're getting the economy going, and that's helping businesses throughout the province. And there's different ways that we can do that. But the fact of the matter is, our climates have changed dramatically. We need to make sure that we're getting support to businesses when they need it, and that includes the agriculture sector, because we've actually failed to do that, whether it's in the Okanagan or whether it's in Abbotsford or Mission. All those places went without support, and we all paid for that.
So first of all, Trevor, I'm pleased to hear that your leader has come out and accepted the fact that climate change is a reality. No, seriously, folks, I am pleased. This is exceedingly important. It is also exceedingly important that the Premier, my Premier, our Premier, has gone along with or has been talking to the federal government of doing away with the carbon tax. So those are two things that I think are really positive aspects of what we can talk about in this election. And I'm really pleased about that. I'm going to go look for it tomorrow, absolutely first thing. As always, we ask people to fact check anything that's being said up here. But what we need to do is kind of bring things back down to earth. We talked about transit earlier. The amount of traffic on our roads, the amount of cars in our community is absolutely insane, and it's getting even worse. That is carbon going into the atmosphere. That is causing climate change and the damage that is being done. It's heating our planet up to the point where we're probably spending billions of dollars every year on forest fires, if not more. And if we're not spending it, at least we're putting aside to spend it because we believe that is happening. We're losing communities around this province. Places are literally burning to the ground, and people are out of them for long periods of time. So we need to make a commitment to what climate change looks like. I hope we can make that commitment in the legislature with all of the parties represented. And I hope beyond that we can start to build relationships with the federal government. Maybe we can do things as simple as, like having, what do you call when you put things on your roof, it's not solar. Thank you very much. There we blanked for a minute, didn't we? Solar. There's a lot of other things we can do that are small and simple things, but we have to be willing to do it. And again, I will say, it's not going to be for nothing. We have to spend money on some of this stuff. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I just full disclosure, I like Trevor a lot. I'm not so enamored with Rusted and the Conservative Party. I know this is a conservative writing. Take it for what you want. I don't believe he really believes in climate change. Guess what? The BC Greens do, and that's really one of our North Stars. Climate change is real. I've traveled across over the Rockies on planes. For the last several years, I haven't seen a single glacier. That just blows my mind. If you've ever been to Athabasca, you can't even approach it anymore because it's now melted so much there's a river between where you can go and the ice. So climate change is real and we got to take it seriously. The BC Greens obviously do. BC Greens support carbon tax, but we have to do better with how it's done. Right now in BC, schools and hospitals and people are paying carbon tax. Well, what about big oil? They're getting billions and billions of subsidies. Site C and fracking, $21 billion has gone into that. I'd rather have the farmland so we can help feed people. I'd rather make sure that money went to affordable housing. It's not about raising taxes, it's stop wasting it and subsidizing industries that should have gone away a long time ago. I was really fortunate this summer. I drove across the States twice. And what I discovered, I was really delighted, is there are thousands, tens of thousands of windmills all across the States and solar farms. Yet we're doing Site C. The studies have shown that we could replace that much cheaper, keep our farmland, and use wind power and solar. I think that's the right way to go. We have to have smart solutions, and I'm not seeing that from the current government. And I'm sorry, all respect to Rusted, I've not seen it from him either. So anyway, think green, think the environment, climate change is real, we can address it. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 14. Daryl's up first, Scott second, and Trevor third. This question is from our sponsor, the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board. South Surrey White Rock is increasingly becoming out of reach for many first as well as repeat home buyers. If elected or re-elected, what kind of measures will you pursue or introduce, and how will you work with the municipalities of White Rock and Surrey to address this significant issue, streamline development processes, overcome obstacles and challenges, and attain buy-in?
Yeah, thanks. And so the first answer is really simple. Within probably a week or two of being elected and being sworn in, I will be coming to City Council in Surrey and in White Rock. And I will be talking to our mayors and our councils about what they need or what they think I can do as I represent this particular area in the legislature. So that's an absolute given. There's some interesting ideas out there being floated, and I think the real estate boards are involved in it. I believe the province is involved in it, whereby 60% of a given value of a home is used as a first mortgage. Now, this is rudimentary stuff, and I just picked up on it the last couple of days. The other 40% is held by a board or a council or a group that funds that last part of it. And so what you do is you get into a house at a relatively affordable rate, whatever the 60% looks like. That's what your down payment is based on, and that's what the first, I think, 10 years of your payments are going to be based on. And then after that, you sit down with the board, the association, whoever is offering this money up, and decide if you want to buy more of it or if you want to sell and get out of it. And if you want to sell and get out of it, that money that you put into it has to be paid off first, and whatever is left over you would maybe get for another down payment. We need creative ways of building housing in the community. They're not towers. They might well be triplexes and duplexes and so on. I can see my own home, if it was taken down, it could probably be a duplex, and it could have probably a laneway, kind of suite or apartment on it, as we have a number around our community. But we have to be more flexible about how we build these things. We've got the space. Now, I don't think we need to take over all the garden space, but if you had a house with one suite and a laneway house, now you've got 3 pieces actually paying towards that mortgage. That helps things to become more affordable. And I think those are some of the things that we need to talk about. Thanks.
Thank you for that question, and thank you to the Fraser Real Estate Board for supporting us, this event. I talk to developers all the time. People think I'm anti-development. I'm not. I think real estate done properly, like the Royce, fantastic. What I'm opposed to is politicians who say they're for low density and respect to the OCP and then violate it all over the place. Not happy about that. All over the province that's happening. And the Stats Canada is saying that 40% of houses, all these mega condos, are empty. Daryl even pointed that out. I think it's actually much higher than that. What we need to do is work with developers, and we know that if we house people, we have better citizens, healthier citizens, and we lower costs over the long run. We have to look for that and do more things like unity, and they're possible. We just have to have the will to make that happen. So, and Bill 44 is just going to make things worse. So we need to stop trying to densify our way into solutions and look to work within our means, slow down. The population in BC is, in especially Lower Mainland, is flat right now, except for people coming in. I'm all for people coming in, but we have to have the infrastructure in place for that, and we have to work with the developers. We need to, it's right that they make money. I totally on board with that. We have to make sure it's economic for them, but we get what we want to help housing, creating affordable housing. And like I said, the Greens want to do 26,000 affordable housing. It's big money, but eventually, when it's done, you save money. Thank you.
Thank you. I got elected in October of 2020, and for my first couple of years there, I did not meet with one developer, I didn't meet with one business owner, I didn't meet with one homeowner that had anything positive to say about how they were dealing with the city of White Rock when it came to actually getting anything done, whether it was licensing, permitting, or whatever it was horror story after horror story. And you can go to business after business, to homeowner, or to developer, all around this city, and they will all tell you the exact same thing. Because we didn't get it done, and because we had a mayor that buried the permitting part and everything else in bureaucratic nightmares. It happened time and time again. The fact is, we had a gynecologist in the Altus building that couldn't even get a permit for a year, used all of her RSPs because she actually had to keep her clinic open at Grandview Heights because she couldn't even get an occupancy permit. That was under Daryl Walker when he was mayor. That is abysmal. The fact is that we've got to make sure that we are working with developers, we are working with businesses, and we're working with owners to make homeowners to make sure that they are getting support when they need it. We have to work with all levels of government. That's not getting done by things like Bill 44, where you put your foot on a municipality's throat and the community's throat and say, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do the triplex that Daryl just talked about, but guess what? We're not going to do a public hearing. Okay? You can't come and have a voice. That you can't say I'm going to go to Victoria and I'm going to voice it. That's legislation that currently exists. That's all legislated. That's done. We're the party that says we're going to repeal that. Okay? You can't say I'm going to go into caucus and I'm going to have a tough conversation. That conversation's already been had. That vote's already been had. I voted against it every single time because it doesn't work. That's not good legislation. That's not good solutions.
Thank you. Okay, we're getting down to the last three questions here. Question 15, Daryl first, Scott second, and Trevor third. It is from the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board again. Following a unanimous vote, Mayor Brenda Locke recently announced she will be pursuing a city charter for Surrey. She has indicated that the initial concept for the charter would exempt Surrey from recent provincial housing legislation aimed at increasing density, plus give local officials the authority to enact an empty homes tax and otherwise expand revenue sources. How do you respond to that? Is it time for Surrey, like Vancouver, to have its own charter?
Yes, thank you very much for that. It is time for the charter process to be reviewed. As many would know, Vancouver has its own charter and a lot more flexibility than most of the rest of the province. And we have a charter in White Rock and in Surrey that basically fits into the structure of the rest of the province. I said earlier, White Rock is a separate entity from Surrey, from Langley. We need to be looked at differently. We need to be respected in what that charter looks like. And I think the charter holds us back in a lot of ways from doing the work we need to do. So my suggestion, and I don't know whether it came to UBCM this year or not, is that the entire charter process is looked at. So the charters for the rest of us need to be reviewed and renewed. I think that, these things are like, 50, 60, 70 years old. 70 years ago, White Rock was a very small community. This just in, folks. But 70 years ago, we had a charter that made sense because it made sense for small communities. It doesn't anymore. And Bill 44 is a prime example of it. Foisting something like that on a community like Surrey isn't as perhaps harmful as the community as the city of White Rock. So let's have a look at the charters. I would hope UBCM would be involved in some of these things. That should be the role and responsibility of UBCM. They represent all of us, and they should be the ones that are at least taking direction from us and then talking with the provincial government. But the charter needs to be brought up to date, needs to be brought up to speed.
Sorry, my turn. So should this, I like the charter. I wish the government would respect it. So Bill 44 basically says all that public input not needed. Democracy not needed. We'll just do whatever we want. That's not right. Okay? So I really respect Mayor Locke, and I love the fact that she is saying, like, our cities, Surrey is a very big city and it needs its own charter. Totally agree with that. But I also think we need, for the other cities, we need to respect the charter the way it was. And we can't have governments like the NDP unilaterally imposing density on us. Is that what you want in your community? Do you want to have your tomato garden all of a sudden overshadowed by a 4-story building just where there used to be a single family home? That doesn't make sense. We can do way better than that. So yes, kudos to Mayor Locke for doing that. What is White Rock right now? The 5th densest city in Canada, some crazy thing, or is it BC? Is it? I thought it was the 5th. Anyway, and we're going to be forced to do more density? I don't think that's right. And I think, no offense to you guys, but I think we could say no to that. There are people like cities like Burnaby are saying, hold on here, I don't have to listen to this. And we should be doing the same thing. And again, the city of Surrey, kudos to them. Democracy is a good thing. I think we should have more of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with that. And I agree with the fact too, is that every municipality is different, has different challenges, different needs, different budgets. I don't think I've ever heard the city of Surrey say that they support Bill 44. I haven't, unless there's something I've missed there what Daryl said. But the fact of the matter is we're having these conversations now about municipal rights because we have a government that doesn't respect municipalities. That's clear, right? Whether it's Bill 44, we're saying we're not going to have public hearings, or whether it's other things, instead of, we're taking a hammer to different things because, the province is trying to ram through their policies without the actual input of local governments. Local governments are extremely important. It's actually, I'll say, being a mayor or a councillor is probably one of the hardest challenging jobs that you're going to find in an elected life. I haven't had the privilege of serving there, but I can imagine that you're dealing with issues that are affecting people's lives every single day. Right? And it's not just, it can be whether it's garbage pickup or police budgets or fire budgets or whatever it is. Those municipalities are all operating in a very, very different way. But the reason that we're having this conversation is because they're feeling that they're not being respected, not just at an elected level, but every single level. Right? And so we need to make sure that municipalities are having a voice because it's a very, very important voice. Right? And the fact of the matter is, when we're talking about things, when we're talking about housing, and we're going to say, okay, we're going to do Bill 44, and we're going to have this, and you can do this on your lot and everything like that, but your neighbor doesn't have, we're not going to give a voice to mayor and council, we're going to take your neighbor's voice away too. Because that's exactly what they've done. There's no public hearings, right? So your neighbor can go and do this development, and you're not allowed to go there and have a voice. That's what is legislated in Bill 44. And I do not think that that's democratic.
Thank you. Question 16. Scott's up first, Daryl second, and Trevor third. What is your party's plan to balance the budget? And that's a chamber question.
Thank you, Trevor, wherever you are. What's our plan? We got to stop being foolish with our money. We got to stop giving billion-dollar corporations more billions of dollars to do damage to our environment. We need to stop waiting until people are in the emergency wards before we address their medical needs. So we can just be smarter. We just have to do it. Europe is full of examples of countries where they do preventative medicine, where they sorry, lost my thought. I've totally lost my thought. What's the question again? I got 5 seconds left. Budget, yeah. In the city alone, right? I noticed that the government, the city likes to spend its entire budget. When was the last time, with all this development, that you saw money, your taxes go down? It just hasn't happened. People still believe that's going to happen. But it's because we have all this money and we've got to find a way to spend it. I want to challenge everybody, and the BC Greens want to challenge everybody to save money. Let's prevent all the expensive stuff. Invest in fixing the climate and investing in farmers, getting us food sufficient, and stop getting into all these companies that are just whittling it away and drilling more oil when we should be doing windmills. That would create jobs, and it's cheaper. Housing the homeless. You save half the money that it costs. The Liberals, put in casinos. It turns out for every dollar the casino makes, and I fought it in the 2011, so I remember this, every dollar they make, it costs communities $3, right? In added crime, in added absenteeism, and addiction. All these things that the governments lately have been doing for the last 23 years is costing us money. We just be a little smarter, we could save money and reduce taxes. I think we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'd like to go back to the comments that Scott made, and I would support him on these. Our taxation system, both federally and provincially, needs to be looked at, reviewed, and overhauled. There's far too much waste in the system in terms of large corporations who, quite frankly, don't pay their fair share. Subsidies are tax cuts. They're nothing but tax cuts. That's what a subsidy is. So when we give large corporation tax cuts, the subsidies, we're giving them tax cuts. So we have to have a look at that. Secondly, offshoring of a lot of the businesses in this world are totally under the control of any of our governments, and it should be the federal government that's looking at it. I don't know how we go about bringing that back. But when millions of dollars are made in Canada and then shipped off to somewhere in the Caribbean, we probably don't get a hell of a lot of tax dollars out of that. And that's something that we need to have a look at. And the third thing is, quite frankly, coming out of COVID or coming through COVID, every level of government spent and spent and spent. We needed to. We needed to keep people safe. We needed to keep the food system working, but it cost us a lot of money. It is going to take a while to recover from that. And you would hope that over the 4-year period of a government in place, we will start getting to the point of balancing the budget. But frankly, I don't know that is accurate. I don't know that we can say that. And I'm not sure that I'd be willing to stand up here and tell you, yeah, we're going to balance the budget, when quite frankly, we're not necessarily going to balance the budget. Everything we talked about tonight is going to cost more money. Everything. And then we're going to take $4.1 billion out of the healthcare system on top of that. We can't continue to work like that. We have to find a better way of operating. Thank you.
Okay, so a couple quick things. Number one, when we talk about tax breaks to industry, let's all remember the largest corporate tax break that's ever been given in the provincial history was to LNG Canada, and that was done by the NDP government in 2018. Okay, so let's be really clear about that. The other thing too is we actually have to respect the taxpayer. Okay, so when we're talking about the new infrastructure that we're doing, whether it's the SkyTrain extension, or whether it's Patella Bridge, or whether it's hospital additions, whether it's Cowichan or the new Surrey hospital that they talk about, the fact is that even before they get a shovel in the ground, they're already delayed and they're significantly over budget, right? Because we're dealing with a government that they fail to plan and then they plan to fail, right? So every single thing, every infrastructure project that they put their hands on, or at least even announced, not one single project has been delivered on time and on budget. That's a fact, okay? So at the end of the day, when we're talking about why we have a $9 billion deficit, $9 billion, that's the highest deficit we've ever had in the history of this province, okay? So when we can't go out there and we can't deliver or commit to a project and actually deliver it with the budget that we've announced it with, or the timeline that we promised. Use the Massey crossing. The Massey Bridge should have been opened 2 summers ago. 2 summers ago, that bridge should have been opened. The government came in, they made the decision, they're not going to do the bridge, we're going to study, we're going to look, we're going to do this and that. They wiped out $100 million. $100 million of work that had already been completed on that bridge. And we're at least probably a decade away from getting what the NDP are saying they're going to eventually do a tunnel, which they don't have a permit for. That is why we're facing the deficits that we face today.
Thank you. Okay, last question. Trevor is up first, Scott second, and Daryl third for this question. In the past, parents of special needs children have experienced the threat of essential funding being removed. What will your party do to ensure that all children and youth with support needs will receive the funding and services required?
Okay, this is actually very important because I think what we're talking about here is that this was an issue regarding autism, but it actually should be affecting every child that suffers from neurodiverse. Previous government, they did something and it was called individualized funding, right? Specifically for families with children with autism. So what that did is that gave a family an allotted amount of money where they could make the decisions on how that was spent for their child. I agree with that, I support that. I think that's important. this government was going to strip that from families. And I will say this, and I'll be very direct on this. That was a year and a half of hell for people that didn't need to go through it. It was, right? I stood in David Eby's constituency office in the pouring rain with some people that are actually here today, right? I know there's people here today that took buses to stand on the legislature lawn to fight for their kids, their families, their friends' kids, because that was absolutely abysmal that we would even consider, this government, this NDP government would even consider taking that money away from kids that need it, okay? And that was a hill that I was gonna die on, because that was absolutely unacceptable. It got reversed, and again, I will say it's never the wrong time to do the right thing, but the pain that was inflicted on those families was absolutely embarrassing for that to go on as long as it did. And my fear is that an NDP majority government will do exactly what they tried to do, and they are going to strip that funding, and I will definitely make sure I'm not allowing that to happen.
Thank you, Trevor. That's pretty good. So the Greens, the BC Greens platform is the 3 Ps, and the first P is people. So we really believe in supporting families in need and providing the medicine and the care they need, because it's to do anything else is cruel. In a country like Canada, with the resources we have in BC, we should be able to give everybody the medical care they need and the facilities they need. And when we don't do that, not only are we being cruel to individual families, but it affects us all. Our co-workers are the ones who are late and not being productive. It affects the entire community. And just by making sure we give people this funding, we're doing the right thing. And we need people who are going to say more, do things more than just say things. We need people, smart people who've thought about policy and realize that they're all interwoven. So if you shortchange one, you're going to hurt people in another place. Neurodiverse children need that care, as do seniors, as do our climate, addressing climate change. If you do it right, you can actually save money and help everybody. And it's a crying shame to me that we have a $9 billion deficit, a $89 billion budget, and we can't have nice things like places like Norway. We can get the money. For example, the resources that we pull out of the ground, we get pennies on the dollar. In Norway, 90% of it goes back to the people. Why aren't we taking that money? Why are we giving away our resources? Doing a pipeline of raw bitumen to Asia when we should be refining it, creating jobs here, and sending out clean resources that provide value. That would give us more money in our pockets to help all these people who are in need. Thank you.
Scott, thank you very much. I totally agree with you. That's exactly where we should be going. We should be looking at ways of funding our country, funding our province, and funding our communities instead of giving money away as we tend to be. And so I think that's something we need to look at. Secondly, fact check. Please have a look at what is being said and make sure that you're getting the real McCoy, you're getting the real goods. I think that's exceedingly important. And the third thing is, just like seniors, the children and the families that we're talking about need the support and the commitment from our communities and from our governments to be able to see to their needs. Just as seniors need hearing aids, these children need the support, whatever it looks like. We should be able to provide it. That should be a commitment, and it's certainly a commitment that I will make if I'm able to get to Victoria and be one of the people talking about this, whether it's in caucus or whether it's in the legislature in the House itself. I'm in favor of this and supportive of it.
Well, that's a wrap, everybody. Great. Hello, yeah, great night. And just like to thank everybody up on the panel here for wonderful dialogue. Let's give them a hand. Our sponsor. I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board. So, please be married. And I'd just like to thank the Chamber and the BIA for And lastly, everybody gets to say 2 minutes closing remarks. And Daryl's up first, Trevor, and Scott.
Well, thank you once again to our sponsors. Thank you for leading us through this really interesting debate. My fellow debaters, my fellow contestants, thank you for your time. And more importantly, and most importantly, thank you for your time. There's a lot of people that weren't able to come here tonight that are friends and families of yours. Talk to them about what you heard tonight. Talk to them about some of the things that we were talking about. As I said from the get-go, and I'm not going to take long, there's a reason I jumped into this race. And that's because I believe this community is underserved and has been underserved for the last 4 years. I believe I can do a better job at serving the community. I believe my years as mayor will show many of you that. My open door policy and my sense of meeting and talking with anybody, listening to what the issues were, is really, really important from my perspective as part of this job. So the commitment I make to you is I will be there for you. Your issues are my issues. Your problems are my problems. The door will always be open should I be successful, and I'd love to sit down and talk, and maybe even before we get out of here tonight, if you have a couple of comments, I'm not running away anywhere. Thank you very much for coming, and again, thank you to everybody that put it together.
Well, thank you. I want to thank the Chamber. I want to thank my fellow participants for doing this debate. I think this is really important. I think that people here have heard a different perspective from all of us, and that's what democracy is about. Everybody's going to have the right to exercise that on October 19th. A few things really quickly. I fundamentally believe that we are in an affordability crisis right now in this riding. And I fundamentally believe that we cannot tax our way out of that affordability crisis. I believe that we're in a healthcare crisis right now. We need serious solutions, and that means from leading from the front and actually listening to doctors and nurses and making sure we're not continuing to work in silos that we are. We have to also realize that we're in a mental health and addictions crisis right now. And that means we got to make tough decisions, whether it's involuntary treatment or making sure that we get people off of our streets and getting the support and the treatment that they need. And we need to realize that we've had some significant failures, whether it's decriminalization or some of the, the legislation that we put through, like Bill 44, and the chaos that's going to bring. Now, Daryl seems to believe that this community has been underserved over the last 4 years. I disagree with that. I think I've done a fairly good job. I think I'm out there. I think I'm fighting for everybody, whether you voted for me or not, right? And I really stand by that. And I'm actually quite confident in my record. And then, Daryl may not like the fact that I'm going to challenge him on his record, right? And the fact is that we've seen challenges at a municipal level, and a lot of those challenges were brought on by Daryl. And I think we've got to make sure that we don't want to see that happen again, and that's what I'm going to be fighting for. I think at the end of the day, we realize here that this is an absolutely pivotal election. And I'm going to be out there fighting for every single vote because I know how important it is that we are properly represented. And the fact is that we've had 7 years of NDP government. So if we have been getting shortchanged. Surrey White Rock has been getting shortchanged. Surrey South has been getting shortchanged. Surrey Panorama has been getting shortchanged. All of Surrey, all of the Fraser Valley has been getting shortchanged under this government, and that needs to change.
First of all, I want to thank the organizers. I forgot. Dwayne! Oh man, terrible. Fraser Board, the BIA, South Surrey, and especially everybody out there, the voters who've come to listen to all our different takes on things. The BC Greens believes, we've done it before. We've been the glue that kept NDP. Their climate policy is actually the BC Greens policy. We can make a difference, and if you vote for me to go to Victoria, I will be sure to be there and work as hard as I did on council. I was there at 2 o'clock in the morning asking myself, why do we have the parking lots closed outside of Primos for 2.5 years? It turned out we were storing tree stumps and gravel and equipment that could have been in the parks yard. I got that to happen. I worked with different groups to get dogs on our promenade with support of the council. Thank you for everything. But it was bringing people together, people with diverse views who did not like each other. And that's what the Greens want to do. We want to work with all the governments, the Liberals, the Conservatives, and the NDP and the Greens together. We need to have smart people working on real solutions and not just election promises and slogans. So support the Greens. It does make a difference who you vote for. Voting matters. That's what I want you to consider. And do fact checks everything. I don't mind if you don't vote for me. I'd like it if you did, but vote for the person who's going to best represent you. And I just want to point out that it does matter. My motions made the Center Uptown part of the OCP review. My motion, supported by council, thank you very much, reduced heights from 24 to 12. I think that was a good move to help with affordability. But it's all interwoven. We got to work on climate change, medical care, and healthcare, and housing affordability, and the rising crime. And I think smart people working together can make that happen. Thank you.
Just a couple closing remarks. I mean, being such a chamber event, I encourage everybody here to shop local. I think it's really important to support local businesses. That's number one. Number two, please encourage people to get out and vote. It's important to get out and vote. So please do that. And thank you very much for attending tonight. I believe the candidates have some information here at the front, or if you want to come talk to them afterwards, come up and talk. All right. So thank you very much, and have a great night.
Judy. Good to see you.
How are you?
Do you have to rush away?
No.
Can we visit for a few minutes?
Yeah, sure.
We got some back here. My husband's here. I love you. My husband.
Okay.
Where's he going?
Yeah.
I wish we could have coffee. They should have like coffee so we could visit, right? Not that I don't
keep you up
I
for
don't
the
even
whole
drink. I
night.
don't drink coffee. But come here. You guys met Roy yesterday?
Yesterday. Yeah.
And I videoed the whole thing yesterday, so I'll send you the link. So
Okay, thanks. Hi, Roy.
Hey.
How are you? I'm just
Holly, good for you. Good for you. Don't go away. Hi, Reg. We got another date. No, I was an hour late. I told you it was 7.
I know.
It was 6 o'clock. I came at 7.
I know. As soon as you said that, we got home and we looked at 6.
I know. Did Brenda come?
No, I just ran up quickly because we looked at it.
Yeah. Oh, wait, we got a half hour. Now, Roy is here from our riding. Holly. There's a couple more. So, and my husband just went outside. So let's sit down and visit. Do you have time? Do you have to rush off?
Nope.
Good. So let's come up and say hi to people. There's my husband. I'm gonna video Trevor talking to people. Okay. So, but hey, Holly and Roy. Roy, Holly. This is Reg. This is Holly. I told him about our meeting yesterday. He did air traffic control. Roy, what field are you in?
I'm an architect.
Architect.
Yeah.
Wow. And he got our airplanes to land safely.
Wow.
Air traffic control.
Wow. I'm thinking of getting a license. Oh, yeah.